Okay guys, we're going to be starting in a couple of minutes. I'm just going to, we'll just wait for a couple more minutes. So if you want to get a drink, then we've still got a tiny bit of time left. Okay, I think we should get started. All right, so I'd like to welcome you all to today's session. It's actually going to be two sessions. So it's PTSD Awareness Day today, 27th of June, and it's actually been PTSD Awareness Month as well. So, like personally, I've been conscious of speaking out about my PTSD at this time, and I've been posting some things online, about my journey and how I deal with living with PTSD day to day. And so, just in case anyone relates to it, anyone might see it and they think, oh wow, it's not just me. That's why I do it, that's why I put my journey out there. And also it's a part of my life completely. It affects everything I do. It affects a lot of my choices, and it also affects a lot of the things that I used to be able to do, which now, I don't, obviously through rehabilitation, you get more, you get, kind of more of yourself back. But at the same time, I don't think that after a mental shift like this, I'm going to be able to return to what I did before in the same way. I think that's, it's changed forever now. And that's been a positive thing as well as a massively scary thing. Anyway, so let's have a look at the slide. So basically, for session one, the effects of trauma, living with and managing PTSD. So I'll be talking a bit more about some of the symptoms that I experienced and some of the ways that I manage those triggers, which are throughout the day. So finding a way to being able to manage those triggers gives you a bit more freedom, and every day, every month, things feel a little bit better. But what I want to do in session two is a live fitness session. And I'm really excited about this because, as some of you know, I am a fitness instructor now. But this wasn't like a conscious move. This was to do with my PTSD journey. So, it wasn't like I left my career before and said, right, I'm going to be a fitness instructor. There was a journey and a process, and PTSD was what really kicked it off for me. So I'm going to talk a bit about that as well. And I'd just like to say we've got a Facebook group. It's literally just been started. It's completely fresh. And so, but I'm just looking to grow it. And so people with PTSD have a place to go to talk to each other. I'm finding it quite lonely at the moment in terms of finding people with PTSD to have a discussion with and just see how they deal with it. And so, I think it'd be quite nice. And also, you're not always in that kind of frame of mind where you want to be talking and sharing, and you wake up some days and you're just like, oh. And actually going online can be a little bit easier. And on top of that, you don't have to log in every day. But when you want to, the group is there. So that's kind of my idea behind it. But at the moment, it's literally just been set up. So hopefully we can get a nice group formed there. Okay, so as I said, we're doing two sessions today. And at the moment, we're starting with living with and managing PTSD. Okay, so PTSD changes your life. It's something that, you know, for me, it was a tornado through my life at first. And everything has changed as I'll kind of explain as we go on. But it's one of those conditions where you can't ignore it. It's not like you can say, no, I'm all right, just, you know, it's fine. Why am I thinking like this? Why am I, you know, it's down to me. It's not down to you at all. There's so many things that are going on, you know, inside once you suffer trauma. You know, even to the point like different sounds, all sorts of things are affecting you in a way they've never affected you before. And so it does change your life, and it's really important, in my opinion, that you get your diagnosis, and that, because once you have the diagnosis, you realize what you're dealing with. And then you can start looking for support, and there is support out there. But yeah, and it's real, it's a real thing. So when people say snap out of it, or, oh, you know, it's been 2 or 3 weeks now, aren't you kind of getting back to yourself? And it's like, no, actually, I'm completely lost. And it's very hard for people who don't have the condition or who haven't experienced it before to kind of comprehend how your mind is organizing things and what your kind of sensory perceptions are after a trauma. So it's really important. It was really important for me to hear that it's real. You didn't do it to yourself, and it's real. So, you know, it's not to be ignored. It's not your fault. It comes from a place of trauma. So we didn't do anything to bring this upon ourselves. Whether you've been through a traumatic event, i.e. like just, you know, a one-off situation where, you know, in my case, that's what happened to me. You know, it was a one-time thing that, you know, just sent my world upside down. But I have met people who have had, you know, who've got complex PTSD. This is very, you know, it's a very complicated. You know, I find it fascinating to talk to people who have this condition, because, you know, to see how they cope with it, and to see how, you know, they've managed to live with it. Because, you know, a lifetime of PTSD, it's, you know, and it's not our fault. You know, it's not like we can sit here and say, oh, well, you know, I shouldn't have done this, or if I had have done that. It doesn't work like that. And it also doesn't happen to everyone. So, you know, 1 in 4 people who experience trauma go on to develop PTSD. Well, in my situation, there was 4 people in the family who were directly affected by what happened, and I'm the only person that got PTSD or develop PTSD. So again, you know, there was a big guilt thing there, because it was like everyone else has gone through the same experience as me, but I can't even relate to the world right now. I can't even have somebody touch me or hug me, or you know, it was a case of like, why isn't, you know, this isn't happening to anyone else, so like, what's going on with me? And I think what I've, you know, come to learn, I've always known I've been a sensitive, creative type of person. So I've always been into art and music and writing, photography. So these are things that, you know, kind of quiet, reflective. It's a bit different to what I do with fitness. But I used to be an art curator. So yeah, so it was a very kind of, you know, I've always had that creative streak running through me, and I've always been drawn that way. And so that means I'm a sensitive person. I'm sensitive to a lot of things that go on around me, and that's what inspires me. So when I developed PTSD, all of a sudden my sensitivity is like so heightened. It's like nothing I'd ever experienced before. And, you know, there is something to say that, you know, there's certain types of people in terms of their nature who may be more likely to develop PTSD as well. So, for example, you know, I would never be able to join the military. That's something I'd always known from a young age because of that sensitivity and the way that things affect me. You know, I know that going into, you know, such a challenging and such a you know, your life on the line all the time, like I would, you know, I would have been traumatized, and I knew that. And I have friends who have joined the military, and, you know, the things they tell me are very real, very harrowing sometimes. And, you know, but then I still, you know, come into a situation where I've encountered trauma and it's become my reality. And so, you know, there's no way of preventing it. There's no way of saying, you know, I could have done something differently. You know, if it, it happens to some of us. So I just wanted to talk about PTSD and me and my symptoms. So we're going to have, you know, there's like a list of 17 symptoms for PTSD. And so even knowing our trauma comes from different places, we can relate to each other on those symptoms and how they affect our life, and, you know, the way we maneuver around the world now, and the way we're affected by, you know, other people and things going on. So for all of us, the trauma cycles were really challenging. I remember at the beginning, they were just constant. It's just a constant loop. And you would, you know, you'd be focused, you'd be doing something. I tried to go back to work because at that stage it wasn't PTSD, you know, it was grief. And I thought that I could handle it. You know, I had panic. I'd been diagnosed with panic disorder, but, you know, I didn't really know what to make of that. So I went back to work, and I'd just find myself going in these loops. And what would happen is I wouldn't realize at first, but then I would realize when I was going into a trauma cycle, and I haven't had this for a while, I'd find myself doing that, and I'd slip forward and I'd be moving my hands like this because the trauma was going around in my head. And that is a really difficult thing to cope with because, you know, you just have to, you know, you go through it and then it ends, and then something really simple can trigger it as well, you know, and something you may not even realize. Or it could just be that you were doing something and your attention was fully, you know, locked into that thing, and then you got distracted, and then, you know, it's a really intense thing, and it's really lonely as well because you don't understand what's going on, and then the people around you are like, what's happening, are you okay? And you're like, I don't know. I think one of the most immediate things that happened to me, and this happened to me as soon as the situation, the event occurred, is living in a film. So so obviously this is not a symptom listed for PTSD, but this is something that I had. This is how I describe it. So living in a film, in the sense that by way of what happened, it's almost like when you watch something like Eastenders or Coronation Street, or even, you know, you watch a film and you see, like, let's take Eastenders. So you see someone coming back to the square, and there's been an accident, and they're like, what's going on, what's going on? And then suddenly they realize that the person, their family, and that's their family, and that it's they're involved, you know, and the so the it's their family member, and for this reason, it means that living in a film, it's like well, for me anyway, it became a situation where I remember one day I went to see my therapist, and she wasn't ready yet. I think I may have been early, but she didn't come to the door, and I freaked out, and I thought she was dead, and I thought she had died, and that if I walked away from the door, that I was leaving her, and I might be the only one who could possibly be there just in time to save her, like call an ambulance. That reality, I can't remember. I think she hadn't arrived at the house yet, but for me, it's not like, oh, she hasn't arrived at the house, or maybe she's asleep, or maybe she forgot. For me, it's like she's died, or she's had an accident and she's on the other side of the door, and if I walk away, what's going to happen to her? And it's going to be, I had the opportunity. And that is living like a soap opera, you know. And that's basically how I've kind of, it's calming down a bit now, but that's how I basically interpret everything. You know, I had one of my friends who didn't respond to a message a week or two ago, and I literally went into this meltdown of something's happened to them, one of their family members has died, you know. And it was just literally, and it consumed me. I was literally like, every day I was like, have they emailed, are they okay, what's happened? And you know, normally, regularly, without my PTSD head, I'd be like, oh, okay, they're busy, or they've got work, or but there was just something about, I do hear from that person very regularly as well, so it was unusual for them not to contact me. So this wasn't just, you know, out and out paranoia. There was, you know, there was a a cause for concern, because we normally speak every day, and with PTSD, I really need my routines. And so it was unusual for them not to be in touch. But instead of thinking they'll be in touch when they can, or you know, they could be busy, for me, I was just like, no, something tragic's happened. And then we have hypersensitivity, and that affects every sense. I think most people with PTSD experience hypersensitivity. It's probably one of the main symptoms, you know, that I speak about with people. So it's the case of, I went from being someone who walked into a room and I'd be like, hi, I'm Katie, give you a hug or give you 2 kisses, or you know, however. Now I'm like, you know, I don't always smile. I don't remember. It's like something I have to, you know, like I have to assess the scene first. I'm like, who's here? What's going on? Am I near a wall? Is there anyone behind me? You know, I've got that thing about what's going on behind me, and checking a lot. And then, you know, the feeling of someone touching me. When I first got PTSD, if a stranger touched, even if it's someone I knew, to be fair, but if a stranger touched my skin, it felt like it was on fire. It literally felt like my skin was burning, and I just like, no. And it was, for them, they're like, whoa, what's going on? But for me, it's real. It's like, and even now, I've been on my journey for 2 years, and you know, I wouldn't be able to have a hug from a stranger until I'd spent some time with them. So it's not the same when I'm doing a fitness class, and it's not the same when I'm working with someone, like coaching, doing like one-to-one holistic coaching, which I'll talk about a bit later. But you know, because I know who I'm going to see and we've organized it, you know, I'm very welcoming and I'm like, hi, you know, it's great. And I would be able to hug, you know, a client or a participant who's at my gym class. But if I don't know what's going on, if I don't know the person, I don't know why they're here or what they're, you know, it's just completely different to how I used to live, where it's just like, hi, you know. And then again with the hypersensitivity, so sound is my massive one. Well, all of them, everything is sensitive, but the sound is, you know, particularly challenging, because, for instance, we've got someone having building work going on at the moment, and any kind of like, you know, the people dropping things, you know, the doors closing with the wind, all of these things, it's like, you know, take cover. And it's really hard to talk to, you know, explain when people don't have PTSD. So, but when people do, you know, like, I'm sure some people can relate here, but like, your mind doesn't think, oh, someone, that's the door, or someone's just dropped something. Your mind thinks, you know, it can go to something quite traumatic. So for me, it used to be like, I'd think an explosion had gone off, when really, like, it could be that someone's even sometimes speaking about it is a bit challenging, but you know, if someone closes the door closes really fast and I'm like this, my first thought isn't, oh, that's a door, how annoying that sound was, that was a bit loud. You know, it's like, take cover, what was that, explosion, you know. And it's wild waking up like that. You know, yesterday you're going to work, doing what you do. Today it's like, you know, someone can open a plastic bag next to me, and you know, when people go like that, and I'm like, ah. It's a very strange condition to have, and it's quite interesting and challenging to explain it to other people. One of the things that I got very badly, and I still have it now, so you might notice it sometimes, but I'm feeling very relaxed at the moment, and also I've calmed down a lot in terms of tics, but I had tics in my arm. So with the tics in my arms, it's a case of, so if I start talking a bit more about my journey, you'll notice it, but I tap like this a lot. So it's a bit like the trauma cycle. They all have things. So it's almost like it's thought here, thought there, thought here, thought there. And then I have my mantras as well. And somehow, so I have the taps, and I have this one, and then I have over here when I'm walking around, or I hold to my face. And it's really weird because it just developed. So I remember when everything had just happened, I was getting this electricity in my arms. They were literally like this constantly. And, you know, all day. We're not talking about that's it. It was all day, you know, like my, and I was getting pain down here. It felt like electricity. Literally felt like I had electricity in my arms. And that's how it all started. And then I remember I started doing a tap on my shoulder, so that I knew my anxiety level. And so if I'm like this, I'm really anxious, but if I could feel it slowing a bit, then I knew that I was having a dip. Obviously with the PTSD you have depression as well, and you know that, you know, so I'm not saying when my anxiety was going down I felt good. I'm just kind of saying when my anxiety, you know, I could see that my body was slowing down in terms of reacting in that way. But the tics were awful, and touching my face constantly, like constantly. So I'm going to talk about how I dealt with my tics a bit later on. But yeah, they've calmed down a lot. But if I get into highly stressful situations, I tick like crazy. So, but you will see it a bit. So. Issues with speech. I don't know how some of you guys have been dealing with that, but I think you may have already. I think I've had a few issues with speech already during this presentation. When I first developed PTSD, I could hardly speak, like string a sentence together sometimes. So I mean, I even had it earlier. I was trying to describe, what was I trying to say? I was trying to say something like, I mean, I could give an example. I wear my baseball cap to go to the gym, and that's my sentence. That's what I want to say. I wear my baseball cap to go to the gym. But what came out was I because the gym, so the cap for the gym. That is an example, like today, that I remember because it was only about 2 hours ago, and it's quite strange, because I have people saying to me, "What's wrong?" And it's like, I don't know. This just happened to me. Like, I don't know. I can't speak properly. And I very much have it if I go to the shops. So if I go to the shops and I go up to pay for something, and I'm like, uh, um, uh, and it just goes on, and it's really challenging, and it's like it just happened. I've never had any experience with this before, so then intense panic attacks. That was scary because it's panic attacks where, I'm sure some of you guys have been unfortunate enough with this, but where you're literally can't breathe and you start to get dizzy. And that's actually when I removed myself from work. So I went back to work after everything had happened, and then they insisted that I got signed off work. But I remember one of the last days that I was at work before I was signed off, they were like, "You have to get signed off, like you need to," which was really great. Actually, I was really supportive of them. It wasn't a case of like just work. They were like, no, we can see there's an issue here, and you really need to have some space. So what happened before I left work is I had this massive panic attack in the bathrooms, in the ladies' bathroom, and I just got so I couldn't breathe, and then I started to get dizzy, and then I got faint, and then I started to fall against the side, like the sideboard, and I kind of collapsed onto the floor, but I didn't pass out. But it was a wake-up call to me, because I thought if I'd fainted, we had stone flooring. So, that could have resulted in a head injury, that could have resulted in a concussion, or, who knows? So I thought at that point, this isn't just a mental illness where, I can say to myself, stop thinking this, focus on something else, clear your mind. None of that. Like, that's not how PTSD works. You can take time for yourself to do things like that and try and clear your mind for a bit, but no, it's trauma cycles. It's something you have to address. And when I'm having panic attacks where I might knock myself out on concrete or stone floor, that's the point when I'm like, yeah, my colleagues are right, I need to get signed off. So if you're having these kind of panic attacks, there's some real stuff going on for you, and at the same time you could be endangering yourself if you don't remove yourself from the stress and take the time to understand what's going on and put some support in place for yourself. So continually in a state of fear, I mean, that's PTSD, still is. Doesn't go away, but it eases. And I think also what I'm going to talk about with ways of managing you know, there are ways of giving yourself a slight chance or a slight break from all of this. So we'll look at that. So dark thoughts, you know, that's all of us, you know, that can lead to some really dark kind of contemplations. Emotions limited to sorrow and anger. I'd never had that before. You know, when you have people say like, oh, I'm so angry, like I'd never had that before. I could get frustrated and angry with people, and I could get, you know, or with things, but not to any degree, you know what I mean? It was nothing intense. It was just like general annoyance, like, oh, I hate this day, you know, I wish I hadn't got involved. Whereas with PTSD, it's like fierce. It's like, you know, feeling anger that I've never experienced before. Vivid imagination. So yeah, it's great for storytelling, but it's harrowing when it's linked to sudden noises. So, you know, like these bangs. Like for me, metal on metal is the biggest issue, and glass on glass. That really is a struggle for me. Like that sound is just whoa, cover. So obviously your imagination, I find with PTSD, your imagination is so sharp, it's so clear. Like it's, again, it's not everyone's experience, but for me, it's just made my perception of things so fast that when I hear that noise, I don't have time to think about what it could be, because my brain relates it to something straight away. And that can be really harrowing. But then, yeah, if you ask me to like describe something, like, you know, describe this object, I will go into great lengths of this. I wouldn't just say, you know, it's green and it's minty green for a start, but, you know, I wouldn't just say it's plastic and it's green and it blows air, you know. I describe how the blades inside look like petals, you know. It's just, it's great for certain things, but on another level, you know, it's your brain's too sharp. Feeling isolated, like no one around me understands. I think that's common for all of us. I think that's common for everyone at some stage, but I think with PTSD, you know, obviously you're reacting to something that no one else can see, and if that worries them or triggers them in a certain way, then, you know, it can be quite difficult. And ultimate confusion: what, how, why, and will I ever be myself again? I mean, yeah, we all know. It's just, how did I get here? What's the road out? Am I going to get better? Is it like hurting my leg? Not really. It is something where, you know, it's a journey, and it's not a little journey. I'm just going to put on some lighting because we actually had a change in weather, so I don't know if you can see me as well. But yeah, it's gone quite overcast and it's been raining. Hang on, maybe this light would be better. Let's see, I just think that looks a little bit brighter. Okay, so that's the symptoms. So this is how it changes your life. It changes it completely. So plans, career, goals, mental health, partner, money, social identity. So, you know, when anyone has to take time away from work, or they have an illness, it affects their career, it affects the money, especially if you have to walk away from that career like I did. So I had to walk away from a career that I loved. I loved working in the arts. I loved being in a dynamic, like fast-paced central London gallery. I didn't work in, you know, the more kind of, you know, the galleries that are a little smaller, maybe in a bit more of a quiet area. I used to work in the galleries that were full on, busy, people in and out all the time, and I loved it. But when I tried it with PTSD, I mean, and I could do it to an extent, but you know, I'd be doing my job and I was doing my contracts and all this stuff, and it was great, just like before. I mean, it wasn't great because obviously I had trauma in my head, but doing the work, because it was so much and it was, pressure, it meant that you were like, okay, next, and it meant that I was in a position where I could, not think about the trauma as much because I was so involved in the job. But then someone would come and knock into my chair and I'm like, ah! Or someone would phone, and they'd be like quite shirty with me and I'd be quite direct back. And it's because, because before PTSD I'd be like, okay, whereas after PTSD I was like, well, no, it's not happening. And the tone was different, and it wasn't on purpose. It's not on purpose. It's just when you don't have happiness and you don't feel happy, you don't feel joyful, you don't have that in your life, you're constantly going through this trauma cycle, you don't tend to sound that chirpy. So it was, it was really challenging. And it was like, my goals went out the window. I used to love traveling for the arts and going to different countries. I don't know if I could go through border control. What if someone tries to touch me? It's all these things. So many things that I have to think about now. Even just going to the supermarket and people, not so much in Corona, but prior to that, running around, people come quite close to you. And for me, I'm like, no, don't touch me. And they're thinking like, what the hell is going on over there? Your social identity. I mean, forget it. It's like, it doesn't matter if I was an art curator and I did this and I did that, and, let it go. At the end of the day, I'm that red piece in the puzzle. That's the only thing that makes sense now. Like, I exist and I need to deal with this situation, this journey that I'm on. I need to give it the attention it deserves. And so the plans I had, where I was working jobs where my priority was the event or the exhibition or, whatever it was, my priority was, I couldn't say, oh, I need to get away, my condition, it was like, I'm here, I'm ready to go. And my partner, was there for the first year, and there was other things going on, but it was, eventually our relationship came to an end. And it's like, my partner was amazing. He had no comprehension of what was going on at all. He doesn't think like this. He's been through several traumatic events, and he took 2 weeks off work, 1 or 2 sessions of counselling done. I've been in therapy for 2 years. So, it's different. And I think I came to a point where I needed to be on my own, because all of these things had fallen apart. I was just like, and he needed to take a step back too. So, I'm not saying that everyone loses their partner, but I'm just saying it's certainly a strain, and you become different. I mean, he'd come to hug me. Normally he'd be like this, but when I first got tics, they were so intense, and like, he'd hug me and it'd be really nice. But if he prodded me or went, hey, what do you want for dinner? I'd be like, don't touch me. And it's like, what's going on? So, things changed in our relationship. But he was a great support for me, and it was amazing to have someone that loved me when it happened. He's the first person I called. And yeah, I will be grateful forever. But this is a journey I have to do myself. Supporting myself. So I'm sorry guys, I do talk a lot, and I think it's because I'm just so enthusiastic today about talking, sharing about PTSD, because it's our day of awareness, and I need to stop with all the anecdotes for a bit. So PTSD is a serious condition and it requires attention and treatment. This is a time when you can ask for help, take support, and focus on your rehabilitation. Don't be shy. Don't feel like you shouldn't take from someone else. You know, we have been there for other people. We have supported other people. We've been there when they needed us to sit up all night and talk something through. We've been there when our friend's been ill and they've needed us to come round and help them. You need help now. You need support now. Like, it's so hard, but in the end, lean on your friends. Let them be there for you. Medication. This was a tough one for me. It's your choice. It is there to support you, but it's also a responsibility to be consistent and precise. So I didn't want to take medication at first. I was scared. Am I going to get addicted to something? You know, is it going to leave me in a worse position than I was before, like with PTSD and an addiction and dependency, you know? And it's like, actually, I started taking my medication. You know, I went to see my doctor and she prescribed, you know, and I looked up my medications and they are ones that are prescribed for PTSD. You know, it's not an unusual, I'm not taking anything out of the ordinary in that sense. And so I was like, okay, fine. You know, I'll try them. And it took a while. My medication didn't work straight away. Like, I had a couple of different medications that did. They would deal with panic, like, quickly. And then I have another one which was, you know, if you're just completely a wreck, then I'll take that. But literally, that's my keep it in the box and, you know, serious times. But then, you know, I do take an antidepressant, which, you know, they don't work straight away. They take time to build up. And I was nervous about doing this. And for a while, I kept saying to my doctor, it doesn't work. It's not doing anything. Because obviously it doesn't take away, like, people think, oh, you take antidepressants. People mistakenly call them happy pills. There's no happiness in an antidepressant. It's just there to kind of, I guess, try and level you a little. It's not trying to make you happy. It's not trying to give you a certain mood. It's just trying, you know, in the sense of, you know, some kind of magic. It's just there to take a level of the buzz out of you, you know. You know, the only way you find happiness is searching, you know, like actively, it with PTSD is actively, you know, trying to achieve it. You won't, it doesn't just happen. Don't just wake up one morning and you're like, oh, I feel like I used to. Like, no, it's active. It takes action, and so the medication supports you, but it does take action. And so, you know, I would personally say that I'm not having addiction issues with my medication because I respect it and I understand what it's there for. And I also when I look at my medication, if I'm not taking my panic medication as often, that's a good thing, because that means that potentially I'm panicking less. And it also means that when I am panicking, I'm using techniques to be able to try and limit myself from getting to panic attack situation. Sometimes it happens. It really depends what the situation is and the trigger. But, you know, when I look at myself not using those medications, which are under my control, so they're controlled drugs, so obviously they're prescribed, like, they're not in my control to have them when I want, but then it's in my control. So I get so many, and if I think that I need to take it, then I take it. So that's my responsibility, but I you know, I look at it as an achievement not taking them. But at the same time, I know that if things are really seriously, you know, seriously bad, and I'm really, really traumatized, you know, I'm really going through something, then take my medication, because that's what it's there for those bad times. But it's really your journey, and you really have to decide what you want to do. And if you have an addictive nature, you know, I do. So that's why I had to really think about it, you know. And actually, for me, it's not been an issue, but it has been a support. A therapy, yes, yes, yes. I recommend therapy. Like, I don't know how to get through PTSD without therapy. And actually, there's been other things that have been unlocked by it, and so it's actually been a good session of like working on myself. Like PTSD is what took me there and dominated it for like at least the first year, but now like other things are coming into play as well, you know. So I recommend it. And you know, sometimes if you go for NHS counselling, so that's not the route that I've taken. And there's, you know, one of the reasons is the waiting, and also I didn't know how specialised it would be, and I didn't want to wait. That was the main thing. I just didn't want to wait. So I found a therapist who I knew specialised in bereavement. I knew she'd been in the business for a long time. So, you know, for me, it was just like, I just need someone. And, you know, there was a connection. So my friend knew my therapist, my friend's parent knew you know, there was a connection. So in that sense, I was just like, yes, let's do this. But if I hadn't had my friend, whose family are in that line, you know, who are in therapy as well, if I was starting from zero, I would go online, I would look up therapists in my area, and I would type in the specific thing you're looking for. So it might be bereavement, and then I would, you know, it's important to look at people's qualifications. We don't want to just talk to anybody, you know. If someone's certified, so my therapist is in relation to Barnet. So you know, she does, there were, you know, I did go and look her up, and I looked at, you know, what the details were. So you know, I didn't just see someone pop up, see their name, see a phone number and say, oh, okay. No, I, you know, that, and also obviously with a friend's referral, you know, I knew this was someone legitimate. You could always ask your doctor. So your doctor might be able to see. My doctor, so my NHS doctor, who I see for my medication, she actually knew a private CBT therapist, and so she, you know, she gave me the details. So at some point, if I want to pursue that, or if I'm ready to do that, if that's the right option, then I could do that. So your doctor might be able to advise as well. But you know, it's important to get the right person. You know, you don't, you know, because this is a journey, and you know, I've stayed with the same person the whole time. So you know, I wouldn't feel comfortable telling all my private information to someone who, you know, who I didn't know enough about. Okay, so time away from work, you know, I had to do that, as I've mentioned, and then finding healthy coping mechanisms. So we're going to have a look at that now. So I thought, what brings me joy? This is going to be the most healthy way for me to cope. So I went back to the basics and thought about, you know, basically what's around me. So flowers and trees. If you check out my Instagram, so for All Silver Clouds, I run the Instagram, and there's lots of pictures of flowers and trees and me outside in the garden, which was the plan today, but it's raining, which would be fine. I'd go out in the rain, but equipment. So you can get, even when you're really feeling depressed, you're feeling like traumatized, you know, you can touch the plants. You know, the trees don't move anywhere. That was one of the biggest things for me. So everyone's moving, everything's moving, but the tree is solid. And then when the leaves blow in the wind, they're gentle, you know. So for me, that was something that was very calming. you know, just being able to put my hands on the grass, you know, the earth wasn't moving fast enough for me to feel it. So you know, that just trying to find my center and something that made me feel grounded. Cats, obviously grew up with my little cat, and yeah, so just for me, just literally touching a cat can take me from anxiety. Just to stroke the cat can take me like within a minute into calm, relaxed, no problem. And that is like nature's medication. So there's nothing unhealthy about you know, giving a little cat a stroke, or taking your dog for a walk, or you know, giving, you know, petting an animal, and just having that like kind of calm and also non-judgmental reaction as well. To say I'm ticking, the cat doesn't mind. So cat, I actually think that cats have like the moods of someone with PTSD anyway. Because if you see their reactions and the way they're like, what's going on? What's going on? They're very much like they've got that hypersensitive nature. So dancing to music is great. So if you put on your favorite music and just dance around, that will bring out the endorphins. Calligraphy and painting, that's my thing. But again, that's something where you focus your mind completely on that activity, and at the end of it, you've created something. So at the end of it, you look and you're like, oh, I've made an artwork, or I've written some, you know, some really beautiful like lettering. Instead, I could have, you know, just sat in my thoughts. But to do something creative means that at the end, I have something to show for it, and also it can be very expressive. So, you know, if you're feeling trauma, you might write the word trauma, but in a really beautiful way, and like, you know, copper plate calligraphy, let it out. Crafting cards is another one I do. I would show you an example, but it's next door, so sorry. Sitting outside in the shade on a sunny day, so yeah. Watching a comedy. And when I'm consumed by someone or something that brings me joy, then it limits the space for my mind to be consumed with anxiety. That's really important. Not to say you won't be triggered, not to say it won't come back, but it gives you a break, gives you a chance to feel something else. So PTSD and me, my survival kit. So I'm going to be really fast because I've been talking for a long time, and I think a lot of things I've said are going to be covered. So in my survival kit, I've got my earphones and music, because I can't go outside without earphones in, because of all the sounds, the layers of sound. I need the music, otherwise it's very hard to function at all. And my backpack. So obviously all these things are inside it, but also it gives me that layer of protection. I feel protected having my backpack. Because, you know, if you were in a situation where people around you, you know, sometimes I put it on the front of me and it's just like a comfort. So shades and cap. Okay, so cap. I didn't wear my cap for years. I got this cap when I was at university, or no, before university, and basically, so that was ages ago. Believe me. and, and like basically, I didn't wear this cap for ages, and then I got PTSD, and I was walking around like this the whole time, and I still do, but I just thought, you know, I don't feel self-conscious here, so it's okay. But yeah, this was an absolute, like, if I walked out of the house and left it, I'd run back. I'd just go back. I'd rather be late for something than go without my cap, like at the beginning. So yeah, that was essential. And my sunglasses. So because the hypersensitivity with the light, so I went back to the office and the lights were quite bright, and I worked in an arts environment, like in a gallery. So you know, we had like you know, lighting everywhere, you know, to show up the artwork. And so I was walking around in the office with sunglasses on all the time. And it's funny. Sorry, I can say this because obviously it's happened to me, but it's just funny when you see someone like I'd seen like a sketch before where there was this guy wearing sunglasses indoors, and like what happened is like his dog had been run over. Like in the end, his dog hadn't been run over, and it was all like this elaborate thing. But for the time being, he was playing that his dog had been run over, and he came in and he had like dark sunglasses on, and he was like, oh, and it's like that's actually how I felt. Like, because like, you know, it looks kind of funny, but then like when it happened to me, I was like, no, keep it on. And you know what, guys, don't feel self-conscious. Like I know you will, but like whatever it takes to get out of the house, whatever it takes to function, in terms of like, I'm not talking about things that could damage your health, but I'm talking about things like putting on a baseball cap, putting on sunglasses. Who gives a damn if someone is sitting there on the tube going, oh, why are you wearing sunglasses indoors? Who cares if someone's like, oh, you're wearing a baseball cap? Oh, that's not like you. You need a bit of distance. You need a little bit of like, you know, the light is affecting you. You know, the sound is affecting you. Like, it's your prerogative. So don't feel like the things you shouldn't do if you feel you need to do it. Okay, so eye mask insomnia, don't know about you, but I'm an insomniac. But an eye mask is great because it means you can sleep at any time. So, you know, obviously if I get tired in the day, I can put it on and it's like it's the nighttime. Pen and paper, really helpful, especially if you're someone who's really creative. You've got all this stuff flowing out of your head now. You can write down your feelings, you can write down something that you need to remember. I used to write down my medication. So, well, I used to do it on my phone, but my phone's got the music on it. So, but yeah, like I used to make a note of when I took my medication because I was scared of, because I had to take it a lot more regularly. So like I used to take my panic medication 3 times a day, something like that. Now I might take it once a week or twice a week. It really depends what happens. So yeah, the pen and paper was always good in case I need to write something down, express myself, draw something, try and distract myself, whatever it is. Friends and my therapist and my medication. Friends, like as I said, if they offer to be there, if they want to talk to you, you know, I get this thing where I don't want to use my phone, I don't want to text. I'm like, if I send a text, I'm going to get a text back and I can't handle it. You know, at the end of the day, definitely let them know about your diagnosis. Because then if you do go quiet, they are going to worry about you, but at least they know it's not them, it's not their fault. They know that there's something up. But then they will worry about you, so try and be in touch. Like I try, I'm terrible, but I just make an effort as much as I can, and they know that I'm bad. But just imagine something happened to you and then they thought, oh, she never talks to us, so it's just normal, she's fine. And actually you're like, no, I'm not fine. You know, so even like it's not going to be all your friends, but like for instance my brother, and I've got another couple of friends, they always know what I'm up to, where I am. So you know, for someone else not to hear from me, it's like, okay, she'll get back to me. But if my brother doesn't hear from me, it's like, oh no, what's going on? He hears from me every day. So at least I've got someone in my life who there's a consistency and they know, you know, and I think that's really important. Okay, so we haven't got too many more slides now. So some activities that you can do, and some of the activities that I do with people as a coach is art, baking, blogging and writing, decluttering, massively helpful one. That can make you feel so much better and so much more in control of PTSD. Exercise, again, that's my other big one. So that really can give you a sense of control. and a sense of achievement, and also endorphins, natural drugs in the body, healthy way to cope. Making new habits. I mean, habits are really important with PTSD. So routines, you know, things that help you remember what day it is. You know, I've got therapy Tuesday. There's a certain thing we eat on a Friday, so I know it's Friday because we eat this food. I do my live fitness sessions on a Monday or a Friday. So they'll be starting up again in July, actually. So yeah. And just making those habits kind of gives you a routine, and it's a routine that you've created, so you know you can do it to suit you. It's not someone else saying, right, you've got 10 tasks for the day. It's you saying, right, I'm going to do one thing today, and when I achieve that, that will be good. That's what I learned with PTSD as well. Don't make yourself a humongous list. Just one or two tasks a day. You know, sometimes just going to the shop and coming back is like a whole event, a whole day out. So that's what I find anyway. I need recovery time. Okay, and music, photography, and walking massive. If you're not going to, you know, do a cardio exercise session like I do, or join someone like me for aerobic session or a weight session, then walking, yeah, that would be great for you. Clear your mind, fresh air, engage with nature. Okay, so as I said, the PTSD, I rediscovered my creativity. So yeah, you know, and it's also helped the flow. So it's like now I think of something and I create it, whereas before it was like I'd think of something and I'd write a note, and that was as much as ever happened. Whereas now there's like, once I think of something, it's like, right, I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna do it, I want to see it. So you know, we've talked a bit about the trauma of PTSD and like the things that you let go of, but actually I've rediscovered myself, like the core of who I am, like that red puzzle piece is, you know, it's shining bright now, and it's like it's vibrant, and you know, I'm like, okay, I want to make an artwork, what am I going to do? And something always happens, something comes to me, and I do it. So if there's one thing that you can take from your PTSD, it is getting in touch with yourself again. That social identity falls away, and also those ideas that people have, like, you know, you should greet people like this, you should react like that, you should take a step back, you should be polite by shaking hands. Like all of that stuff goes out the window when you have PTSD. Like forget it. Don't let other people hold you to their standards. You've got a new standard now, and it's in line with your condition, and they don't understand that, and so they're just using models that they understand and placing them on you. But you know, when you're mentally ill, the boundaries are different, your perceptions are different, and there has to be an element of people recognizing your vulnerability and giving you a bit of space, because it's not your fault that you can't react and you can't deal with things in the way that everyone wants you to. And again, that's why having a PTSD group, and that's why I've set up this Facebook group, you know, it's a good, because we can come together and go, you know what, I had this thing today, and then other people are like, oh yeah, I get it, I did that too, or I know what you mean. And it's so different to people going, you know, why are you reacting like that, why are you talking like that, why are you, you know. Okay, so making changes to work for you. So that's what I did. So you've got to remove stress as much as possible. And if someone's transferring stress onto you, step away. Connect with nature, take walks, spend time with animals. Breathing is essential. Panic attacks are very real, and the physical response to anxiety is, the response to anxiety is physical. Sometimes you cannot prevent an attack, But if you feel one coming on, you can try controlling your breathing, and with practice this helps. Take each day at a time. It's not, it's very hard to plan anymore. Like, obviously, think about, different things that you want to do, and like things that you might do to help rehabilitate yourself. But, and you can, don't make a goal for yourself, and then if you don't reach that goal, say like, oh, it's my fault, just keep working at it. That's what I did. I became a fitness instructor. I went from art curator, feet under a desk, to fitness instructor, to promote mental and physical balance, and fitness for mental well-being, fitness for mental illness as well, because it will help you come back from mental illness. And it's something that you can have for yourself. It's I can take you on a class, I can coach you, I can instruct you, but you can go out for a walk, you can hop around to a song. So it's something that you can have for yourself. Reach out to friends, as we've talked about. It's also good to have someone outside of the family, so a support group or a therapist, because you might find yourself limiting what you say to friends and family, especially if you're having one of those can't go on days, if you know what I mean. If you tell someone who doesn't have that, who hasn't experienced it, then they might start getting worried. Whereas you can talk to someone who has experienced it, and they know that you need to go through this process of thinking these thoughts, and then and my mantra, you will be okay. As terrifying as it is, get yourself in the space, get your back up against the wall, sit down in the corner. You're going to be okay. Okay, so as I've said a few times now, actually, I've retrained as a fitness instructor. And the main reason that I did that is so I want to bring the message of mental and physical well-being. That fitness will help you rehabilitate on a mental level, and it's really important for that. It's not just there for your body. It's not there to punish you and say I'm not strong enough, or I'm not haven't got the body that I wish I had. Fitness, especially with me as your fitness instructor or your coach, it's very much about the mood that you come in with. And it can be like the worst. You can be like, I don't want to be here. And then when you leave, how you feel afterwards. And if you feel great and you feel energized and you feel less anxious, we shouldn't feel anxious at all, actually. Because when I take people through a routine, it's consuming. It's like music, action, you're not standing there like, thinking. And sure, there will be triggers in music, I have that. The triggers in music. But again, if you come and you train with me, then I take those things into account. So, a song that I love dancing to has a gunshot in it, and it's at the beginning. And I have to fast forward the music to 24 seconds in, because I know that gunshot's going to happen, and I know it's going to freak me out, and I know I'm going to end up on the floor. So on my own time, I will start that song at 23 to 24 seconds in. I will not even play that song in a playlist, because I know what hypersensitivity is like. And also, if I were to play a song where it's past my hypersensitivity levels, but somebody else who's either on my online class, because I do online sessions, and I also have my own studio that I teach in as well. So whether someone's with me online or in the studio, it's all consuming, and you're moving all the time, and the music's fun, and and it's all and as it says here, you know, you're never going, for me, exercise, it gives me strength, gives me focus, energy, and it's a coping mechanism for my anxiety. I can do it anywhere, anytime, to calm myself or to make myself feel better. That's why I do it. I'm not doing it for abs. But funny enough, guys, the more you work out for your mental health, the more your physical health goes up. Because I started developing muscle and I didn't understand. I was like, what's going on? Because what happens, especially when you start developing muscle kind of in this area, in the kind of on the rib, I started to see these almost like dent marks. And I was like, what's that? Like normally you could see my, you know, where the ribs are. And what it was is that I'd been going to the gym every other day, because going to the gym and doing an hour at the gym would get my endorphins going, and it was the only thing. It wasn't making me necessarily happy, but it was making me feel good. It was making me feel something different than, you know, upset, sad, and traumatized. It was making me feel awake, you know, like I'm here. But because I was doing it so much, I was actually developing quite a bit of muscle. And I remember looking down here one day and it was just these dents. And I was like, what the hell is that? And then I realized it's my abs were starting to form and my muscles were, you know, strengthening. So now, like, if I breathe in, you don't see the rib cage, like, you know, as much. You actually see muscle. So it's really interesting. If you actually have a mental illness and you want to lose weight, don't worry about the weight. Focus on your mental illness. Get yourself well mentally through exercise, and I tell you what, your body will be fine. It will be looking fantastic. So I totally recommend it. This isn't just what I do. I mean, I'm actually a professional organizer and declutterer, and I work with people on a one-to-one basis as well. But as to introduce movement and things like that into my holistic coaching, if people choose one-to-one coaching, I thought, well, I want to be a certified instructor, and I want to have that background in anatomy, and you know, I want to know about the body and how things work and everything else. So I wanted to do the official, you know, I wanted to do my exams, even if I'm just asking someone to kind of stand up, get down, and doing some breathing exercises. So that's where the group sessions came around. I thought, well, you know what, with PTSD, working with people one-to-one is fantastic, because you really need that one-to-one focus. But if in time you wanted to come to a fitness group that I run, which is going to be, you know, I very much, you know, promote it on the basis of mental well-being. So people aren't coming to my classes for abs and beach bodies and, you know, or to enter, you know, a muscle building contest. They're coming to me to deal with anxiety, to deal with stress, to deal with mental illness, to deal with and also hypersensitivity. So the fact that I take that into account, and you're not going to have like equipment being knocked together and all sorts of stuff, you know, that's I thought, you know, well, why not make something social that people that we can do when some people feel like they want to. Haven't got too much longer left actually for the next session where we do the fitness. So yeah, we've got a tiny bit of time left. So here's another advert. You see, this was my 2020 start 2020 on a new beat, and you can't quite see the whole advert. It says start 2020 on a new beat, but it's anyway. So again, with my advertising my class, it says you know, it's an overall body workout. It's flexibility, stamina, toning, but essentially it's, you know, toning in the sense of arm strength, but essentially it's stress busting, it's mood lifting, it's light weights and stretching, club and dance playlist, There's some chart playlists, you know, like it's quite eclectic. And so yeah, that's that. It's very much for me, it's focused on that mental aspect, and with that physical comes. Okay, so just want to talk about all silver clouds quickly. I've just got a little bit of time left to do that. Okay, so I work for All Silver Clouds, and basically it's a decluttering and professional organizing and one-to-one holistic coaching. So with the decluttering and professional organizing, well, I'll start with the name first, actually, All Silver Cloud. So it's that idea of every cloud has a silver lining. So when you look out at the clouds and you say it's grey, it's going to rain, you know, the days of write-off. Our philosophy at All Silver Clouds is that, you know, every cloud silver, there's always an opportunity, to, you know, do something for someone else or to do something for yourself. There's always an opportunity to, you know, find the good in a bad situation. And so in that sense, like we're saying, you know, it's like for me, for example, I'm saying, hey, I come from a place of trauma, but you know what? I know that all clouds are silver. I know that you know, if I keep going and I keep working on what I'm doing, then, you know, I'll see the silver. So what we do, so with the decluttering and organizing, it's creating, you know, it's decluttering the physical space to create, you know, mental space. So I used to work in interior design before I became an art curator. And so I worked with people in their properties a lot, and, you know, designing, you know, it would be like, you know, be reupholstering furniture, choosing different fabrics and wallpapers, and, you know, designing a couple of the rooms, accessorizing, all that kind of thing. But what I've actually moved into now with All Silver Clouds is decluttering and organizing, because it's such an important thing for mental health. And when I first developed PTSD, I remember the first thing I did was I started cleaning. I was like, need to clean, need to get the dust off of here. Like, you know, it was like, you know, it was triggered by my condition, that I just needed to do this. But it also made me feel like a level of control, and also that I was doing something positive while I was distracting myself. So I was actually, like, you know, you stand back, just like doing a picture, I'd clean something, I've dealt with something, you know. So it gave me a sense of something where otherwise everything was chaos. So for me, I've moved into the decluttering and organizing for that reason. So to work with people who have anxiety and depression, and it would be beneficial for them to look at like the environment they're in, and we can look at how we might, you know, bring more peace to that environment. And I work with people, so I will propose a plan, and then I'll find myself, so I'll work to exit. So basically, if my client says to me, right, you know, I'm not working with you, I want you to do this project, you know, we've got to clear this house out. For example, we've had a bereavement, we've got to clear the room out, we just want you to box everything, you know, and declutter in that way. We don't need to be with you for this. We've taken out the items we want, or, you know, whatever. Then that's a service that I provide. But when we move into the one-to-one holistic coaching, that's, you know, that's when it becomes a service I provide, but we work on it together. So, you know, so for instance, holistic comes into play because I do a combination of things with you. So there's a combination of aims, goal setting, activities, to bring you like this mental piece, to bring it around. So for example, you know, I teach calligraphy. I, you know, work with oil pastels and things like that. I've got to be careful because we've only got 5 minutes, but also goal setting in terms of, you know, I work with people in terms of motivation, confidence. So the fitness is actually really good for that. So when I'm dealing with, say, like you came to me with, you know, you had anxiety, but it wasn't an anxiety disorder like PTSD, but it was more like anxiety where we could do something about it, put some habits in place that could actually really help you push past that. What's really good for me, what I like to bring together is, so I say to you, right, well, look at this, for example. Someone who's not confident tends to sit like this. Somebody who walks into the room and they're confident has this posture. When you have PTSD, you're very unlikely to have this posture unless you do fitness. I do fitness, and I've done fitness to keep me going the whole journey. And so the whole time I've had PTSD, I've been walking around like this and not like that. And that makes a difference. And so I do work with people on motivation and confidence, but where they're comfortable, I like to bring in movement, and I like to bring in certain exercises. And so, you know, as a client, you might say, right, I want to bring certain habits in, you know, I want you to analyze my time, see where I can fit in more fitness, and then suggest to me what kind of fitness I could be doing, because I've got this going on, or I've got that going on. Let's kind of make a plan, you know, of what I can do there. It might be that you say, oh, I want to declutter this room, and we get decluttering and you're getting a lot of emotion coming up. And so then I can help you with some kind of movement techniques or breathing techniques, and so we can cope with that and move forward. Because what tends to happen is when you start sorting out one area of your life, or you start making changes in it, then it has an effect on other areas. So positive aspects will come into play in other areas in your life. So that's why I work on a holistic basis. I just think it's really important to take that into consideration, you know. So with PTSD, it's not like take your medication, see your therapist, you're done. You know, it's like you've got to actively seek joy. You know, you've got to do things that make you feel better, that make you, you know, feel different, something different. And that's why I became a coach, because it's a really, really hard thing to do. And sometimes I don't know where I got my strength from, but I've also, you know, I've had my therapist, and I've been lucky because, you know, we're a good match. And so I decided I wanted to be a coach, because the thing that I was looking for that I didn't find out there for me with PTSD was the action plan, the active part. So the closest I came is, I wasn't looking for a PT, but a PT came up to me one day in the gym when I was training, and I said to him, oh, don't come up behind me, I've got PTSD. Now, if he had said anything else, the conversation would have been over, but he said, that's okay, I was in the army, I understand. Straight away, I was like, right, I'm in. Whatever you're going to talk about, I'm in. And basically, yeah, I trained with him for about 5 sessions before he had to leave the country. He was moving away. But the point was, having that time with someone doing something active was so important, you know, and it made a difference for me. So I want to be the action plan for someone else. So if you go and check out All Silver Cloud's website, then you'll be able to see. So I've put some charities that are on my website as well that you can go and have a look at. But here we go. So All Silver Clouds, if you go and check out the website, allsilverclouds.com, you'll see all the contact details there, the links to the social media. There's a lot going on Instagram and Facebook. And then I've got Facebook groups listed there. So PTSD Our Place, and KM Body Mind Balance, which is where I do some of the live, I do some free live fitness sessions. So I'd love for you to join me. Thank you so much for coming to this session. That was a lot of talking and a lot of material. It's been an hour and a half, and I'm just really grateful. So thank you so much. And I'll be sending out the slides, and I'll be sending out the recording for you guys to see. And so again, yeah, thank you so much. And PTSD Awareness Day. I'm really glad you joined me.